I recently had the opportunity to sit down with the team from Evil Dead the Game to talk about the future of this asymmetrical horror multiplayer title. So let's discuss exactly what's in store for players. How's it going, everyone? This is Miles Dampierre, and today I am stoked to be joined by Craig Sherman of Saber Interactive to talk about some juicy details surrounding Evil Dead the Game. So first off, Craig, thanks so much for taking some time to sit down and chat with me today. As you know, I'm a big fan of Evil Dead and a regular player of Evil Dead the Game.
I am always happy to talk about Evil Dead the Game, and it's good to be talking to you.
I know we talked briefly pre-launch about Evil Dead the Game, your role within this project, but for the folks tuning in maybe for the first time, can you give us a quick breakdown of what your role is within Evil Dead the Game?
I was the writer for all of Evil Dead the Game. Pretty much everything you hear anybody say or anything that's on screen, I wrote it. That was my job.
Beautiful. I know you're a big fan, and we got to geek out about stuff like Evil Dead or Ash versus Evil Dead and all the movies and how the lore ties in and the fun you guys had when it comes to getting all of those licenses and really being able to pay tribute to those characters. So your team recently announced that Evil Dead the Game Game of the Year Edition is coming to Xbox, PlayStation, Epic, and for the first time ever, Steam on April 26th. So what can players expect in terms of new content with the Game of the Year Edition update?
This is very exciting for me, and I'm hoping for everyone else. We're going to see two of my favorite characters joining the game. Brock Williams, which is, obviously it's Ash's dad. Hilarious character. I laughed every time he was on screen on the show. I think we've captured him very well for the game. He has some really cool new abilities that we haven't seen before in the game, and I love what the team has done here, where one of his abilities, there's these dynamic auras that can help his teammates, and they change depending on how many Williams family members are on the team, which that touches my heart because I love that they're going into the to the lore, who's family, who's not family, and that Brock having his family around increases this. I think that's fantastic. I love that they've meshed these things together. So he's a new survivor. There's a new demon who is called the Schemer, and it features Baal from Ash vs. Evil Dead. Another character who I love to see in that show. I could watch a show just about Baal. I love that fact that Ash called him Bill. That cracked me up every time I saw him. Just constantly calling him Bill. And so, if you're familiar with the show and the character, you know that he is a kind of a seducer. He can create illusions. He can make him seem like someone else. So in the game, the meat puppets, which are it's sort of his minions, they can inflict increased damage and inflict pain with several different attacks. But he also can do something to make it seem like one of the survivor characters is possessed, even if they aren't. So that the other team members it'll seem like they're, because he messes with your mind. This is Baal. He messes with your mind. So he's able to do that in the game, which is, again, dipping into the characters and really incorporating, their actual personalities into their special abilities, which I love. We're also going to see some new outfits. We are going to see Ashy Slashy.
Yes.
Big fan favorite.
Love seeing that.
Yep. We are going to see Amanda's, it's called the Duty Calls outfit, which is, her police getup. And for Pablo, we're going to have the El Brujo outfit. Again, very exciting for me, and I hope for all the fans, because these are fan favorites. There's going to be a new single-player mission, just like we've had in other updates. And all of these add up to a full story. So I don't know how many are already revealed in the game, but we're getting close to the end of having all 10 of them. And when all 10 of them are in the game, they will combine to make one complete story that kind of fills in some lore background. It all fits together. They're not 10 different pieces. They are 10 pieces of a puzzle. We have some new weapons. We have a pipe and a submachine gun. Exciting. And obviously, you mentioned it's coming to Steam, which we're super excited about.
Yeah, that's a lot of content. And I'm excited to hear that these characters are going to add ways to shake up the gameplay, because that's one thing I've really appreciated as someone who's played Evil Dead the game and followed the updates and seen the new characters. When someone's introduced, like the blacksmith was another prime example of a character that had a fundamentally unique system. Can't use guns, find scraps that are completely isolated to that character to craft weapons for survivors. So it's cool to hear that, Baal and Brock are going to introduce some new mechanics as well. Obviously,
I love it.
Yeah, obviously we're coming up on basically 1 year. Game of the Year edition launches about a year after the launch. So what lessons has your team learned in that time when it comes to delivering content for an ongoing experience like this?
It's something that we knew early, from when the game launched, but that has certainly been reinforced over this year, is to really listen to the players, to really pay attention to what they're saying. We're always listening, whether people know it or not. And we've tried to incorporate the things that fans really want, fans of Evil Dead and fans specifically of the game, into the game. We've done a lot of balancing. We've tried very hard to balance the game, constantly making changes so that everybody's happy. Can't make everybody happy. So as far as content, we've tried to stay. There have been, over the course of the year, there have been discussions about, which content, and we've tried to stay with the fans' most favorite characters. Like Ruby, for example, was a huge request, and now she's in the game, and the blacksmith was a big request. So we're always tallying these things and keeping track and going, okay, this is what everybody wants next. Brock has been a huge, everybody wants to have Brock in the game. It's Lee he's just, from the show, Lee Majors played him in the show. Mm-hmm. And Baal has been a big one. We've included, a lot of the characters from the show, a lot at this point. And I think it just sort of rounds things out, because we had a lot of characters from the movies already. So I think that's, if I have to have an overall theme to what we've learned, it's keep listening to the players and just and make the game more fun for them. Which I hope we've done. Yeah. I
mean, I'm engaged with the Evil Dead the Game Discord, so I see a lot of the conversations popping up, and my core group of friends, as longtime Evil Dead fans, we're always looking for excuses to play the game. And I know the landscape has shifted, and there are these examples of games that have what is for probably the average team an unsustainable amount of consistent content. Your juggernaut Fortnites of the world, where they have an army of developers dedicated to just keeping that flow. But I think your team has done a fantastic job bringing new content, keeping people engaged, and keeping people up to date with what's important, what feedback you're seeing. And you guys have a dedicated feedback section on your website that I really appreciate, because you can go in by specific section and say, this is the thing that I have a problem with or I like, and you can drop that feedback directly to the team. So that's huge, and I think that is a big part of keeping an ongoing game thriving in this day and age.
Right. And I thank you, and I hope that the players realize that we do absolutely listen to all the feedback. With a game like this, especially when people are as passionate about it as they are and about the franchise, you try to make as many people happy as possible. But and especially with an asymmetric game like this, balancing is balancing. There's always going to be
it's in the name, asymmetrical. It's inherently imbalanced.
Right.
But
it's not symmetrical, right? So we do listen, and we do try to make improvements as quickly and do as possible, and do them as well as possible. And we're happy to do it.
So speaking of other asymmetrical horror titles, big games, long-running games like Dead by Daylight, they've kind of made it their mantra and their mission to celebrate horror and bring as many horror characters as possible into the fray, including Ash from Evil Dead. And we've recently seen Ash from Evil Dead in Fortnite, which I was stoked about. Epic kudos to you. You got my money instantly as soon as I saw Ash in the store. So is there any possibility in this experience for characters outside of the Evil Dead universe to find their way in?
We definitely talked about it. We talk about everything. It's all about the rights and getting everyone to agree on how we move forward. It's much more within our scope to be using as many Evil Dead characters, and also we have a lot of Evil Dead fans, so we want those are our most important players. So is it possible? I am not I am not a lawyer. I am not the guy to know the answer to that. I can tell you that I've had conversations about it, but I don't know where we are with. All the fans know there are a lot of rights holders for all the different Evil Deads. The fact that the game got made the way it did at all was kind of a miracle, because a lot of people had to agree, because there's characters from so many different titles. So then making a big change to it, like you're talking about, like adding characters from other franchises or other films, is the same kind of thing where you have to get everybody on board, and that in itself is, everybody's cooperative, but there are so many concerns from so many different rights holders that I can't even answer it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, we joked pre-launch about Evil Dead the game, and as a fan, I remember seeing that trailer and seeing the characters from Evil Dead, Ash versus Evil Dead, and Army of Darkness together, and my first thought was, how'd they even do it? Like, it's historically been a licensing nightmare. Like, even the original The Evil Dead to Evil Dead 2 to Army of Darkness, there's been this saga of just licensing nightmares. So I do have to tip my hat to the team and the lawyers who made this happen, because like you said, it is kind of a miracle. And anyone who's followed the Evil Dead franchise knows how much work it took to get all of these license holders to come together and celebrate the franchise in this way. So I do appreciate that. I do understand all of it's a licensing nightmare. We see it with Dead by Daylight all the time, where they add a character or add a stage, and then, somebody's not happy, or the deal expired, so we got to take that away, and you got to juggle all of those factors.
Yeah. A lot of factors besides just what we want to do and what fans want. And so, I will say all of the licensors have been obviously very cooperative. Everybody's been working towards the same thing, just because they want to celebrate Evil Dead, like you say. I know even the television series had to work around license issues. So, honestly, when I first realized we were going to be able to have characters from all of these different titles, I was probably as surprised as everybody else, because I followed the saga of all the different. I mean, Bruce Campbell talks about it a lot with about Evil Dead 2, and it worked out, and I have to just sort of be thankful for that. Yeah.
As you touch on, there's plenty of untapped Evil Dead that hasn't made its way to Evil Dead the game, and we also have to address the fact that this Game of the Year edition release coincidentally coincides very closely with the theatrical release of Evil Dead Rise. We've also had Ted Raimi recently came out on Twitter and was championing the audience to get a fan favorite character, Chet, in the fray. So what can players expect in terms of future content updates for Evil Dead the game? We've seen Season Pass 1, we're seeing Game of the Year edition. You mentioned this ongoing story. What can players expect for the future now that we're about a year in?
I am a big fan of Chet. I love Chet. I mean, I love Chet, and I love Ted Raimi, and I don't have any information to give. I wish I did. I wish I had more information to talk about those things. I think from what I understand and what I do know is that everything is listened to, like I said, and everyone's still very excited about Evil Dead, the game. So, I think, I can't really say. Look forward to a lot more fun and Evil Dead, but as far as specifically what's going to happen next, I think it's better left for me not to say. because it'll be a surprise and I won't lose my job.
Yeah.
So those are two.
Win-win. Everyone loves a surprise and you're not unemployed. So, that works for me. I can live with that. So you talked about the single player missions. And then you've added additional game modes like Splatter Royale, which is this battle royale take on the Evil Dead the game.
Yes.
A common question I see in the Discord is, will there be other ways to engage with Evil Dead the game in terms of modes? So is this something your team considers? Because the core mode is the asymmetrical mode. We have Splatter Royale, which is your free-for-all battle royale. But has the team considered other avenues of, I don't know, maybe PvE-focused content for Evil Dead the game?
The team has considered everything you can think of. And I think that, the Splatter Royale came out of that. The Royale, it was just, not something that people expected, but it was something that we thought would really, would work really well with the game. So to answer your question, yes, everything has always been under consideration. As far as modes are concerned, we're always thinking about how we can expand and use different modes. So that's definitely something that's always on the table.
Beautiful. Well, Craig, I appreciate you jumping in the hot seat, answering all of my burning questions today. Before I let you go, is there anything else that you want to let fans know about Evil Dead the game?
I want them to know, because it has been a very, a slow process of getting all of these Nobi recordings in the game. That there is a complete story if you're following that part of the game. It does exist, and I think fans will really enjoy it because we went pretty deep into the lore, and I think it's a lot of fun and explain some things. I also, if as an Evil Dead fan, what I would want to know, and I can confirm for all the fans out there, is that we are listening. We are always listening and trying our best to make this game as Evil Dead as possible. I hope that shows in what we've done, and we'll continue to do that.
Beautiful. Craig, I got to say, as an Evil Dead fan, I appreciate you. I appreciate the team. And just quite frankly, I appreciate the fact that Evil Dead the game exists in this day and age.
So do I.
When the reveal happened, it was one of those things that, it felt like a reveal specifically for me. I didn't expect this game to ever exist, a multiplayer-centric Evil Dead game in this day and age. So, the fact that this team is able to deliver on this level and deliver consistently has me and a lot of fans excited. So, again, appreciate you and the team for really committing to this project.
We were thrilled to do it and thrilled to be still working on it. And, those sort of surprises have been part of the process for us, and we're always excited about it. We hope to keep all the players excited in the future.
Awesome. Craig, thank you so much. Evil Dead the Game of the Year Edition launches on April 26th for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. So get those chainsaws ready, and I'll see you on the bloody battlefields. Take care, everyone. As an added bonus, I also got to sit down with Joel Tobeck to talk about his role in Ash vs. Evil Dead and the introduction of Baal into Evil Dead the game. So, enjoy. How's it going, everyone? This is Miles Dampierre, and today I am stoked to be joined by film and television actor Joel Tobeck, who's played iconic roles like the demon Baal in Ash vs. Evil Dead, the Orc Lieutenant Guritz in Lord of the Rings, and so many others. First off, Joel, thanks so much for taking some time out of your Saturday morning in New Zealand to chat with me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Kia ora from New Zealand.
Yes, there's some time zone differences to work out here. I'm West Coast, you're New Zealand, but we're making it happen, and I'm excited. Evil Dead the game is gearing up to launch its Game of the Year edition on April 26th. And a big part of that is the introduction of the character Baal, which you played in Ash vs. Evil Dead, or as Ash affectionately called, Bill. So what's it like seeing a character that you portrayed kind of immortalized in video game form?
Oh, I tell you, I guess any actor on Earth would love to see their image as a video game character. We are blessed to get the odd bust made of us from occasion. That's me from Lord of the Rings.
Ah, yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
Richard Taylor gave me that one. But to be immortalized, if you will, in a video game is quite an honor for me. I was very grateful to be playing Baal, and I was very passionate about Baal. I really enjoyed him. So I'm glad he's immortalized.
He's become a very iconic and beloved character in the Evil Dead universe. In the grand scheme of things, Ash versus Evil Dead is kind of later in the life of this long running series, but Baal is such a huge standout from the show. So as someone who's been fundamental to the world of Evil Dead now as Baal, what does the franchise mean to you at this point?
Oh, well, first of all, I can appreciate that, and I really admire the fact that everybody involved, they created this thing way back in the 80s when they were just young students. Mm-hmm. Rob Tappert and Bruce and everybody, and then they've just kept this thing going, and of course it exploded all around the world from day one, pretty much. And so to be able to keep it alive for this long, some 30, nearly 40 years later, it's very admirable. And they were a group of college kids who hit on something that worked, that everybody loved. It became a cult classic. That cult classic has now blossomed into what it is today. And of course, whenever I get a call from Rob Tappert, I immediately pick up and say, I'm available. Yes, I'll do it.
Oh, I love hearing that. Yeah, you hear the funny stories of Sam Raimi sitting, in his mom's living room, kind of game planning what would be Evil Dead, and then what would become this big, iconic horror franchise that so many people point to as, what turned them on to horror, or as one of their favorite horror films or franchises of all time. So, it's a series that I followed for a very long time. Evil Dead 2, I remember watching way too young. I think I was 7 or 8 when I watched Evil Dead 2 for the first time. And it's one of those movies that's just kind of stuck with me forever. So for you as Baal, Ash vs. Evil Dead wasn't necessarily the first time you had been in projects with Lucy Lawless and Bruce Campbell. I know you used to be in shows Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, Xena Warrior Princess, again, shows that I remember fondly growing up watching. So what was it like kind of reuniting with Lucy Lawless and working with Bruce Campbell and Lucy Lawless on Ash vs. Evil Dead?
Well, Lucy and I started together way before Hercules and Xena, even before she was married to Rob Tappert, when we were doing short films together, and back in 1992. So that's how long
nice.
I've known her. And since then, we only really worked together on Xena and Hercules, and then of course Ash vs. Evil Dead. So it's always great to reunite with someone you have such a history with. And she's for all her success and fame, she's still a good-hearted Kiwi girl. So we bond over our history and the mutual respect we have. And of course, I've only worked with Bruce once during the Hercules franchise, so. And we knew each other sort of to say hello to, but we'd never really worked together properly. So, of course, much respect to him. I wanted to make the experience as professional and enjoy it as much as I could, because of the mana, which we in New Zealanders are saying, for the respect that the show has. So great to work with Lucy, and to work quite a lot with Bruce. Actually, most of my stuff was with Bruce, so. It was a great pleasure.
Yeah, and it's, Bruce has been such the face or the chin, if you will, of the franchise for such a long time. And Ash vs. Evil Dead, in a lot of ways, was like the grand send-off. I remember seeing the social media post where he's talking about hanging up the blue shirt, with season 3 being the grand send-off. So what was it like being a part of Bruce Campbell's maybe not final act per se as Ash, in the flesh at least?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to make it a great send-off, and Bruce has been around a very long time, as we know. He hasn't just done the Ash vs. Evil Dead, he's done many other things. So when you work with someone with that experience and that respect and longevity in the industry, you just want to honour his legacy. And he's carried this franchise from day one, along with Rob and everyone else. But of course, he's the face of it. I I was just very honored to be part of that journey. So yeah, great.
So there are talks of an Ash versus Dead animated series. I know Bruce talked about, hanging up the blue shirt, but then shortly after there were talks of potentially keeping the series alive in some way, shape, or form without, maybe Bruce having to get covered in blood day in and day out. Is this something you would consider if they wanted to bring Baal back into the fray in an animated form? Is this something you would consider?
Of course. I mean, I'm a voice actor here in New Zealand, and I do a lot of voiceovers, and I love doing voice work. So, of course, to bring Baal to an animated series would be great fun. Absolutely. I can see why Bruce wanted to retire the shirt and the blood and the long days, because he was literally on set all day, every day. I can see why he wants to just put his feet up and to view an animated series from his armchair will be a lot of fun, I reckon.
So for folks who maybe don't know what a daily gauntlet is, could you give us a breakdown of a day on set for Ash versus Evil Dead?
Sure. Well, for someone like myself, who in particular, if I had a lot of prosthetics and I had a wig on as Baal, my day might start and I'd be up at sometimes 4:30 a.m. to be on set at 5:30 in the makeup chair for an hour or two, and ready to start blocking our first scene of the day, generally around 7 o'clock. So your day starts very, very early. For someone like Bruce, being the star of the show, they try and schedule him kindly around everyone else so that he doesn't have to get on 5 a.m. in the morning. But as professional as Bruce always is, he's always there, ready to go at 7 a.m. So, when you've got someone leading the show like that, you must just obey orders and do what you're told, because Bruce sets the standard.
Awesome. I love hearing that. So, Joel, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with me. It means a lot. I'm a big fan of the franchise. I'm a big fan of Baal. So this moment is cool for Evil Dead fans who champion Baal and now get to experience and play as him in Evil Dead the game. But before we get out of here, are there any upcoming projects fans should keep an eye out for? Or anything you're particularly excited about that you're working on?
I do a lot of work in New Zealand. I haven't worked in Australia for a while, but I've just been doing a lot of local dramas which are making their way to American screens. One show in particular called One Lane Bridge, which is a cop show here in New Zealand set in the beautiful Queenstown. That's, I think, playing somewhere on Acorn maybe, which is a network over there. But I've about to do a small role with Dacre from Stranger Things. He played Billy, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who was also a Power Ranger in the latest Power Rangers movie.
Yeah, so about to do a little thing with him. I'm doing a lot of voice work, as I say. But as for the next big project, I'm not really sure. A bit quiet here in New Zealand. We're heading into winter, so I know Jason Momoa is down here shooting his TV series at the moment. So perhaps there's something in me for that. But all good.
Awesome. Joel, appreciate you. Once again, Evil Dead the Game of the Year Edition is coming out on April 26th for Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and you can fulfill your wildest fantasies of torturing your friends as Baal. Once again, Joel, thank you so much for joining me, and to everyone else, we'll catch you soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.